Well, it is now 4 o'clock. So I think we can go ahead and get started. I know we're all very excited to hear from Robin. Robin is I think everybody probably knows Robin, but just in case you don't, she's the development liaison and support lead at ExpressionEngine and PacketTide. And today we're going to learn about what is this Twig thing anyway, and the new templating capabilities now that Coilpack has been released. So with that, I will let Robin take it away.
Let's see. Let me know how this is working. I don't know that I've ever done this way. See everything okay? Okay, to start with, I want to be very specific about where this perspective comes from. It's almost the opposite of Brian's talk earlier, who's got a strong background in Laravel and programming, etc. I have a strong background in sociology and education. Never played with Laravel. The only PHP framework I've really played with at all was CodeIgniter, which I did found pretty user-friendly, and Brooke always wrote great documentation, which helped. And that's been many years ago. So this has been a learning experience. Tom's like, want to give a presentation on Twig? I'm like, I've never used Twig, sure. And I think that's actually not a bad thing. This is very much directed at people who are currently developing an expression engine and very comfortable in that environment and not necessarily spinning up plugins or writing PHP. So this was kind of my first foray into it. And I will say I actually enjoy that sort of thing, unless it's JavaScript for some reason. It's been challenging. By far the most difficult conference presentation I put together, simply because it's not an area and I'm expert on per se. It kind of in some way reminds me a little bit of the very early days. I've been here since P Machine, so like 20 years. I looked it up the other day. I think P Machine was in 2022, so yeah, about 20 years. It's kind of got that excitement to it. If you haven't hung out in the Coilpack Slack channel, it's really fun to see people experimenting in, and it was fun for me, except the part when I couldn't get it to work in Fluid, and everybody else could, but something I couldn't figure it out. But it's exciting. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. I guess I should do a quick intro. Robin Sowell, development liaison. I get to pick my name, and that was it. I've been here for ages. Started out with a hobby site and playing on the forums. Lots of activity, lots of power users, lots of people coming in from movable type. Very designer focused group of people. So I know ExpressionEngine very well. And this Twig thing, less so. And we'll talk about why you should care, even if you don't want to use Twig, because you don't need to. But to do that, I want to go back to the beginning and take a look at 2004. That's really when ExpressionEngine came out. P Machine was what, 2022 or 2002. And it gained popularity very quickly, in part because of the custom fields, multiple weblogs at the time, channels, that was unusual, permissions, lots of things. I really think one of the most important things was the very designer-friendly template code. From Get, the whole idea was the code gets out of your way. A designer should be able to do whatever they want, and ExpressionEngine just gets out of your way and makes things easy for you. I've looked up, because this is what I do when I do a project. I go play on Google for hours and hours and hours. The WordPress template at the time, this is, I think, Kubrick, which is a little newer, but it's very, very PHP. It still is, though. I think it can run just about anything, including Twig now. But it's PHP is what it is, with their own functions into it. Did not like I didn't like it the first time I looked at it. And I wasn't coding, like I say, this was simply not intuitive for me. There's a lot of separation between the logic and the content, and there's a reason I didn't go with WordPress back in the day. Movable type is actually pretty interesting. We got a lot of people came up with movable type at one point, and a lot of the way it works was similar, different languages entirely, but the look of the templates had some similarities. I couldn't really get past what was movable type written in, or is something that made it an absolute bear for me to install, and that pretty much turned me off. I also absolutely didn't like the way the tags look like HTML. If I stare at it very long, I get, it's not easy on my eyeballs. Smarty was another one that even goes back to the day, and this is like old, what is Smarty now, 4 maybe? Smarty languished for a long time. I actually had to use it once back in the day when I freelanced a little bit. I think it was some e-commerce system. It gave me absolute fits. And by this point, I had a fair bit of PHP, and I'm like, just let me write it in PHP. At least I would know that. I was always looking up things, and it was not my favorite thing. Though I think Tom said he liked it at one point, but it was hard for me. And then this is ExpressionEngine version 1 back in the weblog days. And to me, it was just inherently intuitive. It's very human readable. And that makes sense if you think about who wrote it. The background of the early developers, philosophy, Rick was music, video editing, like I say, mine's definitely social sciences. It's people who read, write, have strong logic skills, very smart people who picked up programming, don't get me wrong, very quickly, but if you read the documentation, if you look at it, it's something that's very intuitive to a lot of people who are not necessarily coming from coding backgrounds. And I do think that's important. If that's who is using ExpressionEngine, it's an important thing to keep in mind, that kind of readability matters to people, that there is spin up the more codey it gets. So then I took a look at Twig and started with Wikipedia. There is one of the really nice things about Twig is there is a lot of documentation, a lot of very good documentation. So I don't like to read the directions first, but I needed to get a little hint. So I looked at Wikipedia, and basically the tag structure is a little different. And I thought, well, how hard can this be? So basically I just switched out the tags. That didn't work. So I recommend not doing that. I strongly suggest actually going to the documentation. And I'll give you some more links, but Brian did a really nice job with the E documentation. Twig, you'll find in Symfony, which is the default template engine for, has excellent documentation. But you find Twig is not just a matter of syntax. And in the same way, none of the others were just syntax. It's not a matter of just changing up, curly quotes or something. There are logical differences in how they work. And I actually thought this keeps biting me because I'm so used to ExpressionEngine, and I would read Brian's docs and I would just not follow them because just in my head, that's not how it worked. I kept trying, for example, to get a file field to output using a Twig template. And I kept wanting to put it in a tag pair because you don't have to use a tag pair for ExpressionEngine file field, but you typically do to get to the more detailed variables. So here's an example. The top one, of course, is a very typical, I think, right out of the docs example of how you might want to show the extension and a link to a file. And if you take a look, and I actually thought this was interesting, in part because once I kind of got over myself, I actually liked it better. Why is that in a tag pair? Tag pairs to me kind of, not always, but usually imply a loop. And if I feel it's not a loop, I don't know why it's a tag pair. So I actually kind of like Twig in this respect. It's just gives you all the variables for the file field. It was not, I liked it. but it's different is the point. There are definite, they're completely different in some ways. I think it would be easier to learn Twig brand new than it would be for somebody who's used ExpressionEngine for 20 years. Coilpack docs, can't miss them. And I do put a bit of resources at the end of this. And I wasn't kidding. I think it would be really helpful to people to maybe have a page or two somewhere with links to Coilpack discussion. There's some really good stuff out there. And there's some stuff I know I missed because it's hard to hunt stuff down. And video comes and goes so fast. It's weird. But anyway, after I actually looked at the docs, it was really easy to, and I wanted to match this, match what I had. My example came from old ExpressionEngine docs, so that's what I did here. Twig is it helps that I do have the PHP. This all really makes sense when I read it. It's again just it's a loop. It's a for loop. It's what you're going through. You're saying, hey, the entry equals what's the output of this channel, and you can have all your regular parameters in it, and none of that really changes. None of it's particularly weird or odd. And then you just prefix your variable names with this. I don't even know what you call entry. I probably should, but with entry, what you've said is, hey, this is the object that holds all this stuff. Aside from the date, which I had to do a little looking up on, it was very clean, very nice. No problems to get it over there. Of the old ones I looked at, probably off the bat, like Twig the best. It was very readable. Not as readable as ExpressionEngine, in my opinion, just because of the for. It does have a little more Cody to it, but yeah, it was not bad. However, when I tried to output it, I got this, and that's because I totally forgot that you have to make it a Twig template for it to work. So I did that, and I got my output. Don't ask me where I came up with that. I just copy pasted something for the date format, and that's what came out. So it was actually correct. Didn't take long at all to get to the stage. Yay! I was very proud of myself. Of course, then I realized I'd basically managed to replicate what an expression tag could already do, and the permalink didn't work, but still, it could have been worse. So I kept going. Because you guys always want more convincing. I got into one of the big criteria, or one of the important aspects of template engines is inheritance, and being able to kind of pull out a structure, right? The more you can separate the logic and the content, the better. The less you're reusing anything, the better. So this should probably look a little bit familiar to people. It's actually two different templates. I wanted to get them all together, so I think it's a little easier to see the logic. The first top bit is really where your markup lives. It's some HTML, and you'll notice it's got these statements saying these are blocks, and it's got a name on it. So you've got a block title and an end, and there's nothing in there. And then you've got another block contents, and that ends. And then on the other template, what you do is you extend that. The top one was named layout. Again, that's not unusual. It's in the common template group, layout template, where the top bit is. And so we're extending that. We're saying, pull that in. We're defining a title by using the little block tags. And we're defining contents. And that's really pretty much what we do when we do it in ExpressionEngine layouts. There's not a huge big difference there. So all of that was, again, very, very intuitive. But again, there's not a huge, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I see how it all works. I could use this as well as I could use the other, but but I don't have a pressing need yet to plunge in and really be like, okay, I'm switching over to Twig. So apparently I need more reasons to show you how Twig is really actually pretty cool. This one gets a little bit more interesting. This is when I started thinking, okay, well, I started thinking it before because TJ loves it. And I know if TJ really loves it and is pushing, it's doing some stuff that's really cool, right? So I just got to find the really cool bits. This one here, let's see. Oh, yeah, I don't have a pointer. This one here, again, doing something very similar. If you read it from the top down, the top is basically the layout, right? It's common layout again. And we've got a head, block head. This time it has content in it. And basically it just means if I don't define the head, that's what I'm going to get. If I do define the head, it's going to get replaced, which I like that. I didn't have to mess around with conditionals or anything. I was just like, there's no if else. It's like, it would just write it over. Okay, so that's kind of neat. We don't have a title because if we don't fill it in, that's fine. We've got our empty content. And we've got a footer. So again, we go down here. And I gave you a slightly wrong one, dang it. And the interesting bit in this one, this is where it gets a little different. If you look at where it defines the head, if you take a look at the head, this is something that would be hard for me to do in ExpressionEngine. I could do it with conditionals or something. But what parent's doing, hang on a sec. Oh, yeah, that's the part I want to show you. Sorry. Okay, at the very top bit, you see where it's going EEConf macros? Import link. I hate not being able to see you guys. Anyway, look there. EEConf macros, import links. Okay, that's doing something actually really pretty interesting. And if you go down a little further where it's actually creating the data, you'll see that parent tag, which is also doing something a little interesting. Both of these things are not things that have an exact comparison in ExpressionEngine, and they're kind of useful and interesting. So hopefully you are also starting to get kind of interested. Let's take a look at the macros. And you're probably familiar with them from Excel has macros. Lots of things have macros. They're like, I don't want to say they're like little functions, but basically they're saying, look, I want you to take this that I give you. And in this case, if you look at macro links, I'm giving you an href, I'm giving you some text, giving you a class, I'm giving you a target. Right? If I give you these things, I want you to process them a certain way. And in this case, this macro called links is going through and it's making links. It's going to put in whatever the URL is I give you. If I give you a class, then it's going to set a class. If I don't, it won't. I could have had a, fallback or whatever. Same with the target. If I've specified the target as blank, it's going to add that, right? And then a little text, putting it all on LI. It's pretty innocuous and it's easy to understand. Small, it's easy to change. And here is how I would send the data to the macro, right? Here's where I define it. And what I did, and I can't remember who did it. And I looked at all their templates so much. I thought this was really clever. You know how we have pro variables, and a lot of people really use those to make globals. But someone else was just putting them in an EE entry. And I like that. I like that a lot, actually, for this one. I like to keep things in one place. I don't know. They're good pros and cons of doing it either way. But in this case, I put it in an entry and I call globals and I put like everything in there. And the thing is with Twig, you can take that and you can define, you can add to the globals like right in the template. So I hadn't done that in my examples, but you can do that. It's really pretty cool. And you have global variables available. So what I did, I had a matrix field or grid field. Oh, smack me for that one. A grid field, and it's got all of the, it's got a URL row, it's got a title, it's got target and a class. I don't know why I wrote caption, but I did. And all I'm doing is I call that one entry, which is 14. I output the title just so I could see it. And then I cycle through the links and I just feed them over to my macro, which I called up there with the import, right? I'm saying, hey, here's a bunch of information, macro, do your thing. And it did. It actually worked. I was actually really psyched about it. I mean, I realized making a list of links is not that impressive, but I don't know, it was really pretty cool. I'm like, okay, this is neat. I could make use of this little thing. Could have done it with conditionals and such, but yeah, that was kind of fun. Hermione's not that impressed, but I was stoked. Let's see, can I go back to the parent? Did I put it there? I didn't. Let me go back to the parent because it helps to be able to look at this stuff. Before I do though, I want to note, Twig is kind of huge. It's sort of like now ExpressionEngine has embeds and global variables and global template variables and layouts, and Twig is similar. It's got a whole bunch of things. It's a very mature product. It's been around since, what was it, 2009? And yeah, it has a lot of things. So a parent is basically a function, and it's really a PHP function. Not a native one, of course, but and it's got quite a few of them. The dump, I use dump a lot. Basically, it's kind of like a pretty var dump. I use the data a few times in there. But parent is kind of neat because if you go back here, and you see in the bottom section, right? I'm defining the head that I'm going to send up there and plonk into the head block. And what parent does, it grabs what's in the head block up top and pulls it down. So instead of, if I just send it up without parent, that style, import, and color, it would just wipe out everything that's current, the default that's in the parent block or the head block. What using parent does is say, hey, what's already in that block, grab it down and put it where I've written parent, and then put it all back together again. Does it make sense? It's really kind of elegant. I liked it. It made sense once I saw it. I can see how it makes my code a little tighter. I would have to, I could do any of this, but it's a little more concise. And it just, I don't know, thought it made pretty good sense. So while macros are tags, and I sort of think of macros, some of them are like plugins, but not really, like the little tiny baby plugins. And it's an imperfect analogy, but in my head, that's what I equated them with. Parents are functions. And again, in the docs, they've got like a bazillion functions. So these are a few of them, but parent, and quite a few of them are actually quite useful, but I just realized there are a ton of them, and parent was a neat one that I played with. So you got tags, you've got functions, you've got filters. Filters should look really, really familiar to you. Filters will take, so if you got post published out, right? Say that's an entry date. filters are EE modifiers, if that makes sense. So in this case, you're saying, hey, take the publish date, add a day to it, and format it in month, day, year. That's all it is. You can also use EE's own, EE's own modifiers. This is from the documentation right here, doing the modifier name, and you can put a parameter on it. So you can have those too. And you'll see, this is just a list of the filters. I listed them because most of them, just reading them, you can take a pretty darn good guess at what they're doing. There's a good bit of overlap, and it makes sense that there would be. Right now, the Twig filters are a little nicer because you can chain them, but as Brian mentioned, that's coming to native anyway. But yeah, it's nice that they're there. It's nice that there's some extra ones. The two things kind of complement each other. So we've got tags, we've got filters, we've got functions. And we have some more things we can do that I actually thought were pretty neat. I knew I would be able to do this stuff. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do this stuff in time for this presentation because it's thick. It's a lot of data. It's a lot to get through. And I did. I ran into just the devil of the time with fluid field, and I still don't know why. I didn't introduce it when I showed you how to do a channel, right? But if you're only pulling back one entry, sort of like a PHP when you return one entry from a query, you don't have to do a loop. You can just say, hey, set the entry to this one row that was returned. And that's what this is doing. So now when I use entry, it's not in a loop. It's just a variable. It doesn't really make any difference, except it's just, I like it. I think it's a little easier to work with. If it only works if you've only got one, though, because you're only going to have one. But you can see right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm setting the entry ID to 1. So that's what the first row is doing. It's saying, hey, this entry is all the stuff in entry ID 1, right? And the next little batch is saying, if it's empty, give me a 404. Then what I did is just put out a little debug. I said, okay, the first blog, and it's going to be the entry ID 1 because that's what I told it to. And so I output that, and there's the title, and there's the ID. The next part's a little fun. The next ID, this would never work in the real world, and you'd never do it in the real world, but I had a default install, and I was just looking for an easy example. So the next ID is the entry ID I pulled back plus 1. So that's another neat little thing. You can do some math in here. And then what I did, so that was just output to show me, hey, it all worked. Then I defined another variable, and that's NID for next ID. It could be anything. And I said that equals the entry ID of entry plus 1. And then I wanted to see if I could use that variable I set there to set a parameter in my next one. And this was again, you could do this a zillion different ways. They've got includes and embeds, and you can embed EE templates. So you could have passed it that way, which is an ExpressionEngine. If for some reason you were doing this, probably the way you would do it. So lots of ways to get at it. I just wanted to do this because it's neat. And what I could do is use the attribute, which I think is a function. It must be a function. And what that does, it gives you access to all of the, basically all of the keys in, this is wrong, but the template, right? So I've defined this variable NID. Attribute gives me access to it. So I went and grabbed it, and I set the entry ID to that. And then I output the title and the ID I get from that query just to see if it worked. And it did. And that was actually pretty cool. So the first one is entry ID 1, what you get back from it. And then the second is what I got back in my second channel entry tag. which was 2. And I got that back because I used the variable I defined from 1 without nesting them, without using embeds. Again, I never do this. That's really powerful. That's a thing I struggle with. Somebody asked me, it's been a couple months now. There's a really tricky problem. Again, I believe it was like a fluid field with a matrix field in it. And they needed to use a value from that matrix field. And it's like a class, or I can't remember, but they needed to get it down into not the matrix field. Does that make sense? They really needed to use it somewhere else. And we couldn't figure it out. I don't think there was a way. We might have done something like JavaScript, to grab the value. You can't do it with, the variables you define in the top of the template. I couldn't figure it out, and it really bugged me. I could do it with this. I would bet you $50 I could do it with this. So that was very, very cool. Pretty sure I could put arrays in there. ExpressionEngine layouts do give you a basic array, which I actually really like. But you're very limited, and you can't sort them, and it can't be associational. And I don't know, I'm seeing just tremendous potential with things that I might could do with this. And I'm seeing that you could just mix it in super easy. It lives right next to regular templates, right? I think eventually probably do one or the other, because I personally would find it a little confusing. But if I had, how many of you guys, I hate not being able to see you, have used Stash, right? It helps get around some of the issues with parse order, or with being able to use data outside of where it initially lives. Stash is an absolute bear. If you use it a lot and you're well practiced with it, it makes sense, and it's super powerful. But because I do debug things a lot, when I don't use Stash a lot myself, boy, it adds up a lot of spin up. And honestly, using this is not, for me, much more complicated than figuring out a really complex Stash site. So it's sort of pick your poison when you get to some of these real edge cases of usage. It's interesting. It is. I learned a lot, and this was only with like 2 weeks of playing with it, when I could squish out time. But yeah, there's a lot of potential here. I tossed this in just because a lot of people, well, I don't know, a lot of people, but in case you were thinking, okay, well, you had to do this with this single one entry, and you really don't. I just wanted to do that because I like it better. But and I this is copy paste from something I stuck in my notes when I was writing it, that you can do it too inside a loop. But to do that, you need to define the variable outside the loop, and then set it inside the loop, if that makes sense. So you can do it in a loop. You just have to be a little careful there. So I was very pleased with myself. And that was 2 weeks of work. It was pretty hard work. So Twig. My first question would be, why is Twig's logo a weed? And then it has nothing to do with the twig. That really bothers me. But the bigger question, and I'm going to pop out of this because it drives me nuts not to see anybody, and this is really more of an issue for discussion. Is Twig right for you? And I'll give you my honest opinion of it. Probably for 95% of sites that exist and people developing largely an ExpressionEngine, and you've got your system down and everything. No, it's thick. And when I said it was well documented, I was reading the documentation, and I appreciate it. I should have left the page up. I appreciate they did have sections for both. They have a designer section and a developer section. And the designer section was very thick on the code. Didn't get into code, but it talked in such a way you knew they were making a lot of assumptions on what you already knew, and I didn't know. One of those examples, I not talked about it in the other one, was I was trying to figure out, count how many, if I had more than one entry, I wanted to show a summary. If I only had one entry coming back, I wanted to show the full body. It took me a good half hour, and I knew it was related to loop to figure it out. It's a large amount of material. It's complex. It's like learning EE. We always say there's a big spin up. There's a big spin up. Don't take it the wrong way. Especially, I still haven't figured out when I want to use or embed, or there are like 4 or 5 different ways, at least probably half a dozen, to pull or push data between templates, and they all have their uses, and it's extremely powerful. And I love that I was able to play around with those variables that way, and I can see cases where I'd want to do that. If it was just a matter of learning Twig, I'd say for most cases you don't need to. In the weird cases, there's probably always a workaround. It's a lot of spin up for somebody who's already very much into ExpressionEngine's templating system. Now, that said, Coilpack and everything it brings is super exciting to me. I've got a hobby project. I'd really like to do basically a calendar application for dog stuff, amazingly enough. I think I could do that with the tools provided there. I love the fact that we're getting all of this power. If I needed it, I could spin it up. I love the fact that other developers are carrying the weight of doing this development, giving us the time to add the parts we want. We know we're going to do chaining. We know we're going to do math. We can see what's the most useful and what fits. Now, some of the parse order issues are just, the systems work very differently. I will be really curious to see what's faster. Twig should be very, very fast. I don't know if I don't know. I know you guys, some of you guys are going to go out there and really do some testing. It's going to be interesting to see the differences. There's some things Twig, I think, does really nicely. I like the way it sandboxes PHPs. Y'all know, we turn PHP off in EE now by default. And that's because EE does PHP and templates by execute. You can cause havoc with it. So does, well, that's not how Blade does it, but Blade basically just lets you go to town with PHP. Twig will sandbox it. It's, you may or may not like that, but Twig makes an effort to keep people from getting into trouble while still allowing some power of PHP. And there's nothing wrong with using PHP in a template, but if it's much easier to open yourself up to being exploited with PHP in a template than with EE tags. EE does a very nice job of keeping you safe. If you decide to take that protection down, though, it's the Wild Wild West. So I like Twig speed. I really like its logic with the PHP. I like its documentation, but boy, it is a large amount of information to digest. I like how we have options. Like I say, I've already liked Twig better than Blade, but Blade was pretty cool too. I love that you can mix the two if you wanted to. I love that generally it's been pretty easy on the EE Harper end of things, getting them compatible with Twig. What else do I love? I love that Coilpack is going to let us, if we ever wanted to say add Symphony or something, we could. It was it was tough for ExpressionEngine to be so entwined with CodeIgniter. It won't, partly in supporting both, partly in we branched it so quickly because the needs of the CMS and the CodeIgniter were not always in sync. So it's nice being able to leverage everything it has without being beholden to doing what it wants, right? I'm really glad we didn't build Twig into ExpressionEngine and have to support that. It gives us variation, variability, choice. I think it's cool, and I think I will probably definitely be playing Twig in my free time some, just because it's a challenge. It's interesting. It really bothered me. I wasn't able to figure out how to do that fluid thing that we wanted to do, and I know I could do it with Twig. It's powerful. Is it right for you? If I were coming in it brand new, I would maybe start with Twig, especially if I had any coding background, simply because it's you could use it with Symfony. You could use it. I don't know why you'd want to, but WordPress. I won't say it's ubiquitous, but it's very popular. Gives you a lot of flexibility as far as where and how you use it. On the flip side, I do like ExpressionEngine. The fact that ExpressionEngine is always going to have ExpressionEngine tags, and if we want to flip over and support Symfony, ExpressionEngine tags will work on it too, using a Coilpack approach. It's really going to be a personal choice and probably influenced by coding background and needs, because most of the time you just don't need this. On the other hand, it's really pretty cool. If you're in the Coilpack community, seems very, very cool and very, very enthusiastic. And it was fun to dip my toe in that and read about it and learn something that's very, very new and a little out of my comfort zone. Gosh, I talk a lot. Sorry. I don't want to share. Am I still sharing? I am, right?
Yes, you are, Rob.
I was really worried for a minute that nobody else was here and I've been talking for 40 minutes. And basically this was a list of resources, and it's not remotely exhaustive. I kind of wish it was. I'm missing some stuff I know I saw. Most of it is, Twig, Symfony docs, Coilpack docs. Coilpack docs are really good. Please follow them. Every time I screw up, it's almost because I just don't follow the docs. Twig Bridge is how Twig is actually brought into Laravel, and it's got some variables and stuff it adds. This and just because I do a lot of Googling when I'm doing something I don't know. That Twig benchmark one was really interesting. It got into some of the differences. Remember when I was saying macros and includes and embeds? It ran some benchmarks on them, and it talked about them, and it was an interesting read, and I'd love to see some stuff in EE on it and sort of talk about that. It was very cool. Jared, whose last name I will not even try and pronounce, even though he said how. I cannot recommend enough going and looking at. He's put up by basically his Coilpack build out. I learned a ton from it. It's sort of how I really got my hand around macros and how powerful they are. I'd love to talk to him more about using the entry as basically a deposit of global variables that people can define. That's just, I like that. I didn't understand why it was included where it was, and I'm sure there was a reason, but really just neat. It might not be totally the way I would build one if I had all the knowledge of it, but that's the fun part. I really do like how he built it. It's super clever. It's easy to follow. It's neat. Y'all should definitely check it out. Also, Titans articles that I think there were just 2 up so far, but again, the folks that are just way above my head, it's really interesting. I'm hoping to see a lot more out of that. I'd love to put this up somewhere. I don't know where, but yeah, there's a lot of really fun stuff going on there with it. And it is a little weird. It's like we're new kids to a big party because it's not like Twig just came out. Same with Laravel, but there's a real excitement to it. It's, I don't know, this is really cool. It's new stuff. It's like, can I make it do this? Yes, I can make it do this. This is neat. But boy, it's a lot of spin up. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna go play with my dog and drink tonight. Okay. So that is my presentation on Twig. If you have the time, I would definitely recommend taking it for a test drive. But you definitely don't need to take it for a test drive. You know, ExpressionEngine for designer is your bases are going to be covered there, right? I look at this as actually supporting the current tags more so than supplanting them. It's really only if you really want to, or definitely more development oriented. If you want to build an app, it's really what I want to play with. I still don't know half of the stuff these guys are playing with. There's a lot to spin up on, but this was fun. I would say check it out when you have free time, or if you run into a problem where you're like, ooh, I remember Robin said I could do this with it. Is it worth going ahead and spinning it up and sitting down and figuring it out? Okay.
Awesome, Robin. Thank you so much for that. Do we have any more questions about Twig or anything before we end this?
Twig. TJ's here.
Robin, I definitely think you should turn this into an EE University article.
No.
Yes. You don't have to do it today. I mean, do it after you drink tonight.
It was really interesting. I haven't had to apply myself like that in a while. I was like, wow, okay, let me go look this up. Let me go Google this. This is pretty cool.
All right. Any questions, guys?
Oh gosh, y'all talked a lot. I love doing these, but I can't hear things.
We'll make everybody unmute and put their video on next time. So
that seems fair. Ooh, we could do that a lot
Good
more
luck.
with Zoom.
Yeah. Again, I just looked at Hopin's status, and apparently they're still having some issues today. So definitely submit your vote. I mean, we've been with Hopin for 3 years now and haven't had this issue. So, but it is worth considering if we want to use Zoom from now on. We did everyone. We broke Hopin. Yes. Way to go, guys. So any other?
Yeah, any questions? I totally missed any comments because I had the screen up.
Go back through the comments. I think everyone was just making fun of you. So you're good.
Thank you. I'm glad I could serve. Cheese, bro. Honestly, though, it was an amazing job you did with that.
Eric asked, was there anything within Twig you wished we could do with EE tags? Like, did you find anything in Twig that you could do that you wish you could do in EE that you couldn't do in EE?
I think it looked to me like it's very easy to build out new mod. They don't filters. I don't even know how you do that with EE. Like literally, if I wanted to add my own custom filter, maybe you could, but and it looked like that was an easy thing to do. And those are just like little PHP snippets for the most part, so they shouldn't be difficult. It would be nice if there was just a way to do that, because you could spin one up all the time. I really love what you could do with the variables, but I don't think we can do that. I don't think it would work. But that flexibility, what was that old add-on? We had some add-on that was like replace. You could kind of move stuff around, but it was definitely kind of clunky. Yeah, and how easy they are to add. Right. What else? I did like the macro. I just thought that was neat. It's totally not necessary. I was also thinking, and I bet I could do it in Twig. I didn't get that far. You know how you have the date header and footer for the channel entry tag? Is a tag pair. And as you go through, you can have it just show Monday and show all the entries. It just when a repeat, it doesn't show when it's a repeat, but when you change the date, it shows. We should really have that for anything. You should be able to feed it any variable and say, when this changes, show the header. I bet I could build that in Twig real quick. And you'd have to, I don't know. That was the thing I was going to see if I could figure out how to do without even having to build anything else. And I bet I could. Sorry you ask, aren't you? I didn't know there were a thing either. I learned that from Cheese Bro. But you should read the docs. Oh my goodness, so much I missed in the docs. But the docs are huge. They got a lot of things. But yeah, it was neat. And it's a super fun group of people. They're really enthused in that Slack room. So yeah, it's fun.
Robin, I know I had to miss part of your talk, but is there any conversation with the EE team as far as doing Twig without Coilpack in the future? Was that asked?
I don't know why there would be. It just seems like it'd be a lot of work.
Yeah, I know that came up earlier before Coilpack was released. I didn't know if that was a conversation.
See, I did not love that idea because I'm like, I think Coilpack brings a huge amount of stuff to the plate, right? Bringing Twig in would have been much less exciting for me, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
Bringing it in as part of everything else is super exciting. That's my opinion, though. And no, I never read docs first, but boy, I blew it so many times on this one. I really thought you just needed to change out the syntax. It was like, no, Robin, go read the docs.
Eric says, big bonus, we can mix match the template engines too.
I don't know how he did that. Brian's like a magician or something. But he will not give me a button to install the whole Coilpack thing. How can that be?
Brian says, read the docs. Embed Twig and EE tags and Blade is super cool. Oh my goodness. Robin, you have fun with those support tickets coming in.
No, I'm not. Those are all Brian's children.
I thought fluid inside of a grid was bad enough, but
there's a limit. And I'm still not totally sure how that would work in Twig. But I did really like, it made me question some things, like why we have a tag pair for file fields. Why do we? I have no idea. That didn't even make sense. There's probably a reason. I guess. I do. Oh, that's one thing I wish we did, though. Have it so you could prefix everything, but such is life. But it was
anything else, guys, before we wrap up?
Oh my goodness. It was a long day.
All right, cool. Robin, thank you again. Thank you very much.
Is TJ in here?
I have not seen TJ.
I need to go.
I'm not sure he was able to make it today.
Tell him that was all on him that I had to learn Twig.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to share my screen here with we got some conference slides here. Yeah, TJ would appear if you said you hate Twig. So
this is truth.
All right. So again, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you guys did learn something. I hope you got something out of today's events. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Robin. Thank you to Tom and the whole EE team, and Tom for providing this Zoom for us that we were able to switch to. I think this worked out well for everybody. But yeah, again, just technical difficulties is it's the reality, I guess, of everything here. But again, I'm excited for everything we were able to present and bring today. I hope you guys are too. Many questions about the replays, all that's going to be on the EE Conference YouTube channel. Probably, give us a few weeks or so to get to that. And especially with the mixes and technologies here, we're going to have to do some cutting and pasting of video clips and putting everything together. And we'll try to get all the speaker slides and any notes and everything like that to include in those videos as well. But thank you to you guys, the attendees, just for being here and being a part of all this. Let me see if I can get my chat. So, okay. So of course, our sponsors, our gold sponsors, our sponsor Hop Studios. Appreciate you guys. Triple Nerd Score, Doug. Definitely check out his booth before we close the event if you haven't already. 50% off a mousetrap, which is just awesome. I can't wait to see that thing in the wild, but that's really cool. And then, of course, our bronze sponsors, all of these guys, the EE Conference Committee, and the friends of EE Mithra 62, Eric, all of his comments throughout the day make the community better. Thank you for all you guys do. Again, you can support us. You can support us by coming to our events and just saying hi and helping grow, but also financially, you can support us by becoming a sponsor or donating. If you don't know about sponsorships, if you haven't heard that for e-conference, last year we started making the sponsorships year long. So basically, your sponsorship isn't just for one event anymore; it's for the entire year of e-conference events. So you get recognized in a lot of our emails, our social media blasts. You get recognized at our meetups, at the spring conference, and at all for our fall in-person summit. So definitely ping us. There's multiple levels available if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, and those really help us provide these events and all the stuff that we get to do. All right, upcoming events. So we did finalize the July 23rd or 2023 meetup. So that's going to be with Matt Johnson from the EE team. You heard from most everybody else today, but Matt's going to be able to join us in July and talk about expression and add-on development. I know I've seen in Slack kind of the new paradigm of how we do ExpressionEngine add-on development and what's that mean. And people are trying out the CLI and they're trying to build stuff in the new ways. So I'm really excited to have Matt join us. He was a lot of the work I know behind the new way we build out the add-ons with the CLI and stuff. He did a lot of work there. So excited to see that as we continue to see how we can expand ExpressionEngine. I think one of the powers of ExpressionEngine has always been the ease of add-on development and the growth we can do from there and the amazing stuff we can build, starting with that small core of ExpressionEngine and then just growing this with all that we can do. So we'll have the July meetup. Then, of course, we'll have the September meetup, which is to be determined. If you're interested in talking or presenting something, let me know. If you're interested in us reaching out and there's somebody that you're really interested in hearing from, happy to reach out to them as well and try to get them to speak at our meetup. And then, of course, in October, there's your dates for you, 4th through the 5th. We're going to be in Orlando. Go ahead and get your early bird tickets now. There are with hotel and without hotel options this year. But the hotel is amazing and it's really nice and everything's going to be right there. And also, make an event of it with your family if you want to. If you have significant other partners, if you have a family, if you have kids, if you just have some friends that you want to come and hang out in Orlando for the week and go see all the sites, definitely do that. And you can reach out to us and we can book additional nights for you at the conference rate. But we really want to, again, that summit style really brings everybody closer together. We really want everybody to have a good time. So definitely look into that. Again, early bird tickets, you can go to our site to get the link, or you can go straight to this link. If you're interested in speaking, we need those facilitators, as we like to call them. Just, you're not going to speak for 45 minutes or an hour, as much as we want you to just come to the table with a topic that you think matters to others and helps grow and inspire other people, and just present on that and just open up the room to some ideas and just have roundtable conversations where we're all participating. I can tell you in Philadelphia, nobody was able to just sit in the corner and not say anything. Everybody was participating. Everyone was a part of the conversation, and we were all better for it. So really encourage you guys to get those early bird tickets. Really encourage you guys to be willing to lead a conversation if you're able, and reach out about that. And let us know topics too. EE conference team, we're only a few people. We're only a very small subset of the community. And so while things may matter to us, there may be other things that we haven't even thought of that matter to you guys. So if you have topics that you want to talk about or hear about at either the summit or one of the meetups, let us know. Just ping us in Slack and say, hey, I really want to hear about, this topic, whatever it is. That's how we ended up with Caroline doing GA4 this year, is we had people say, we want to hear about GA4. And so we were able to put that presentation in there for you guys. So definitely let us know what you're interested in, what you want to hear about. And with that, I don't see anybody pinging me that I'm missing anything. I'm looking at all my messages. But as far as I can tell, we are good to go. This wraps up the 2023 EEConf Spring Conference. Again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to all of our speakers, our sponsors, everybody that's put so much time into this. Really appreciate the patience, really appreciate all that you guys do for us. I'm not sure if Tom's going to leave this open just to chat for a while, but as far as the conference committee goes, we're done. We're over. We'll see you guys in a couple months. Bye, guys.